My fiancée tried to sell my life's work to her ex. She invited him to our engagement party and told me to be civil. So I stayed civil and exposed her in front of everyone using her own messages. Hey Reddit, so this whole thing started with what was supposed to be an engagement party. My fiancé, my friends, a nice garden setup, the usual celebration vibes. Except, turns out, I was the only one celebrating for the right reasons. What happened that night flipped everything upside down. And honestly, it's the calmest I've ever been while watching my life fall apart in real time. I, Jonah, 31 male, work as software engineer, and my life is basically organized chaos that I control line by line. My girlfriend, well, fiancé, Courtney, 28 female, is the opposite. She's all about vibes and energy and living in the moment, which is code for doing whatever she feels like and calling it self-expression. We've been together 2 years. A month ago, I proposed because I figured it was the logical next step. She said yes while crying, posting it on Instagram within 5 seconds, and tagging 10 hashtags about soulmates. I didn't even get to finish putting the ring on before her followers were already commenting. I should have taken that as a sign. Anyway, we were planning our engagement party. Or rather, I was. I paid for a rented garden venue with lights, catering, and a professional sound system. She called it her dream setting, which was funny, since I was the one paying for the dream. I own our apartment. She works part-time as a stylist, mostly taking selfies at work. I don't mind paying for everything. I make more than enough. My real passion isn't the money or the work, though. It's Utopia, my baby. A smart home system I built from scratch. It runs lighting, security, sound, temperature, everything. Not some off-the-shelf system either. It's my code, my design, my architecture. I've been developing it quietly, piece by piece, getting it ready to patent. Utopia isn't just software. It's a future business. My future business. I'd been planning the engagement party for weeks. I wanted it perfect. Not because I cared about impressing anyone, but because I like when things go right. So naturally, life decided to test me 3 days before the event. Courtney was standing in the kitchen, scrolling on her phone, looking like she'd just discovered a new planet. "Oh, hey," she said, barely glancing up. "So, funny thing, Travis is in town." My hand froze midair with my coffee mug. "Travis," I repeated. "Your ex, Travis?" She nodded casually, still tapping away. "Yeah, he's actually going to come to the engagement party." I laughed. Not a nervous laugh, just disbelief. "You invited your ex to our engagement party?" She looked up, confused, like I'd just asked why the sky was blue. "Yeah? Why not?" "Because," I said slowly, "he's your ex, and this is supposed to be about us." She rolled her eyes like I was a kid throwing a tantrum. "Jonah, please. Don't be that guy. We're adults. We can all be civil." "Civil?" I repeated. "You want your ex-boyfriend to come celebrate your engagement to me? That's not civil. That's weird." Now she dropped the phone and folded her arms, the universal sign of, "I'm about to gaslight you. You're being insecure. It's not a big deal unless you make it one." "Courtney," I said, trying to stay level, "you invited the guy you used to sleep with to the party where I'm supposed to celebrate marrying you. That's not insecurity. That's basic logic." She gave me that tight-lipped smile she does when she's losing an argument, but refuses to admit it. "You're overthinking everything. Travis is a friend. He's happy for us. Be cool about it." "I'm not comfortable with it," I said plainly. "Uninvite him." Her eyes hardened. "No, I already told him he could come. If you're going to be jealous and weird about it, maybe you're not ready for marriage." And that's when she said it. The line that would change everything. "Be cool or it's over." I swear the room went silent for a second. She stood there, all attitude and fake confidence, thinking she had me cornered, like I'd back down, like she could pull rank over my sanity. I looked at her for a long second. There was no emotion left, just clarity. I realized something right there. I didn't want to marry her. I didn't even want to argue. She was giving me an exit disguised as an ultimatum. I set the coffee mug down. "You're right," I said finally. My voice was calm, almost too calm. "I'll be very cool." Her posture relaxed instantly. She smiled, probably thinking she'd won. "See? I knew you'd understand." "Yeah," I said, nodding. "I do now." She kissed me on the cheek and went back to scrolling, humming some pop song like nothing happened. Meanwhile, my mind was already rewriting the script. Not emotionally, strategically. The kind of focus that only hits when you realize the fire alarm's been going off for years, and you're just now noticing the smoke. Maybe the person I thought I was building a future with wasn't meant to be part of my plans at all. Maybe she was just a test run for a better version of my life, one without her. I closed my laptop and leaned back, smiling to myself. She told me to be cool. All right then. She has no idea how cool I can get. The next few days felt like watching someone audition for a role they weren't qualified for. Courtney turned into the world's most affectionate fiancé overnight, smiling too wide, laughing too loud. It was fake and I knew it. Every babe out of her mouth sounded like a cover-up. She started posting nonstop, photos of the ring, of us holding hands, captions like, "Can't wait to marry my genius fiancé." It was almost funny. The night before everything blew up, I couldn't sleep. It was around 1 a.m., and I got up to get a glass of water. The apartment was quiet. Courtney had fallen asleep on the couch, the TV still running some reality show. Her tablet was open beside her, screen glowing. Normally, I wouldn't care, but a message popped up, and the name froze me mid-step. Travis. I picked up the tablet. I didn't even have to unlock it. She'd left it open on their chat. The first message I read felt like someone slowly turning a knife in my stomach. Once the papers are signed, I'll have full access to his servers. I can send everything over in pieces so it doesn't look suspicious. I scrolled. There were dozens of messages. He's so obsessed with this utopia thing. It's hilarious. He actually thinks it's going to make him rich. Don't worry, babe. Once we launch our version, we'll be set for life. Just need to get him to trust me with his files after the wedding. She even sent him a picture, one of my design sketches, the one labeled Utopia V2 System Logic Flow. I swear I didn't even feel angry. It was something colder than that. The kind of calm that happens when you realize you're not dealing with a person. You're dealing with a parasite wearing lipstick. She was planning to marry me, take my intellectual property, and hand it off to her failed ex to build a fake startup. They even called it their ticket out. I didn't touch a thing. I grabbed my phone, took screenshots of every message, every timestamp, every photo she sent. I exported the entire chat to my email and 2 external drives. One went to a cloud backup, the other I encrypted and saved on an offline hard drive. By 2 a.m., I had enough evidence to legally bury her. The next morning, while she was in the bathroom singing some pop song like Life Was Perfect, I called my lawyer. He picked up, sounding half awake. "Jonah, you okay? I need to talk about intellectual property protection," I said flatly. There was silence. Then, what happened? I found proof that my fiancé's been planning to sell my designs. I have everything. Screenshots, files, names. He sighed, long and low. All right, first thing, secure all your data. Every prototype, every sketch, every draft. Keep the evidence, but make sure she can't access a single byte. Already ahead of you, I said. He paused. Good. Don't confront her yet. Let her think everything's normal. We'll start a digital audit and build a case if she tries anything. That was the moment I decided to stop feeling anything at all. That night after she fell asleep again, I worked quietly. I took every printed diagram, every patent draft, every notebook page with calculations, and packed them into heavy-duty folders. My prototypes, the processors, circuit boards, and the hard drives containing Utopia's original build went into a steel lockbox. Then I pulled the bookshelf in my office slightly forward and opened the hidden wall compartment I built when I first moved in. Inside was a small fireproof safe I'd bought years ago. I loaded everything in, sealed it, reset the code, and pushed the shelf back. Nobody but me knew it existed. When I was done, I sat in my chair, staring at the empty space where my files used to sit. I should have been angry or heartbroken, but I wasn't. I just felt free, like I just stepped out of traffic seconds before a crash. The irony hit me. Her ultimatum had saved me. If she hadn't said be cool or it's over, I probably would have gone through with the wedding. I might have given her full access to my systems, my future, my entire life's work. By morning, I was calm, dressed, and sitting at my desk with coffee when she came bouncing in, all smiles and fake sweetness. "Morning, babe. Big day tomorrow." "Yeah," I said, sipping my coffee. "Big day." She didn't notice the tone. She never did. She started rambling about floral arrangements and her hair appointment, talking like nothing had ever happened. I just watched her. The way she moved, the way she lied without blinking, it was almost impressive. Let her play her role. The show wasn't over yet. When she left for her salon appointment, I leaned back, looked at the dark monitor running Utopia's code, and smiled to myself. She told me to be cool, I muttered. All right then. I'd be cool. Colder than she expects. The day of the engagement party rolled around faster than I thought it would. The garden venue she wanted was expensive, but I didn't care. It was clean, minimal, with soft lights hanging over rows of tables and a polished sound system. If nothing else, the night was going to look good. even if it didn't end well. By 6 p.m., guests started arriving. My coworkers, her friends, her family, everyone was smiling, laughing, clinking glasses. Courtney was in a bright red dress that didn't say engaged. It said center of attention. She was posing for every camera like she was auditioning for reality TV. Her friends circled her like paparazzi, shouting compliments. Every so often, she'd grab my arm and drag me into a photo, flashing her ring at the camera like I was her accessory instead of her fiancé. I played along, smiling politely. Inside, I was counting minutes. I didn't feel nerves or regret, just quiet anticipation. The kind you get before pressing run code after weeks of testing. By 8:30, the place was buzzing. The catering team moved around serving champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Then, at 9 o'clock sharp, I saw him, Travis. He walked in with his hands in his pockets, looking like every cliché starving artist. Messy hair, open shirt, smug grin like he'd already won something. Courtney froze for a second when she saw him, then pretended to be surprised. "Oh, you made it," she said, voice a little too high-pitched. I smiled. "You must be Travis." He extended a hand. "Yeah, Jonah, right? Congrats, man." I shook his hand, firm enough to make him shift his stance. "Thanks, man. Glad you could make it." He looked uncomfortable. "Yeah, Courtney invited me. Hope that's not weird." I grinned. Not weird at all. I could feel eyes on us. Her friends, mine, even her mom watching from a distance. The music was still playing, soft but noticeable. I raised a hand slightly, signaling the DJ to pause. The garden went quiet. People looked around, waiting. "Before we do the toast," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I just want to clear something up." Courtney turned toward me, her smile frozen halfway. "Jonah, what are you—" I held up my hand. "This engagement party isn't actually for me." Murmurs spread through the crowd. I could hear someone whisper, "What's he talking about?" I looked straight at Travis. "It's actually for Courtney and Travis, the happy couple who've been planning their own little business venture behind my back." Travis's face drained of color. Courtney started shaking her head. "What are you doing?" she hissed. "Oh, nothing," I said casually. "Just helping you both launch your first public project. It's called Getting Exposed." The crowd gasped. Someone actually choked on their drink. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and tapped the screen. You see, Courtney here didn't just say yes to marry me for love. She said yes because she wanted access to my work, my system, Utopia. I turned the phone toward the guests. Right here in her own messages, she promises to leak my research to Travis. Every line of code, every file. Courtney's eyes widened. "You can't just—" "I can," I said flatly. And I did. I scrolled through the screenshots. People leaned in. I didn't have to say much. Her words spoke for themselves. You could feel the entire energy of the party collapse in on itself. Her mom looked mortified. My co-workers looked uncomfortable. Her friends? Suddenly fascinated with their phones. Courtney's face turned pale, then red, then white again. "You're twisting everything." "Travis was just helping you commit theft?" I interrupted. "Right. Must have been a typo." The crowd went silent again. All I could hear was the faint hum of the lights above us. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small velvet ring box. "So yeah, Travis," I said, tossing him a polite smile. "She's all yours. You two already have enough in common. Mostly poor decisions." And then I looked at Courtney. "And Courtney, good luck explaining this to your lawyer. You're gonna need one." I pocketed the ring box, straightened my jacket, and gave the room a little nod. "Thanks for coming, everyone. Hope the catering was worth the price." Then I turned and walked out. Behind me, I heard a few gasps. Then the chaos started. Courtney shouting my name, her mom yelling, Travis stammering something about misunderstanding. Plates clattered, whispers exploded into full-blown gossip. But I didn't turn around. I walked straight through the garden gate, past the fairy lights, and out to the parking lot. The air felt cleaner out there, quiet, simple. When I got to my car, I could still hear her voice echoing from inside the venue, shrill and desperate. I smiled to myself, started the engine, and muttered, "Told you I'd be cool." And for the first time in weeks, I actually meant it. That night felt unreal. Courtney's name kept flashing like a fire alarm. I let it ring. Then another call. Then another. When I finally looked, it was a flood. 30 missed calls, dozens of texts, voice messages that swung between crying, screaming, and threats. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone. You ruined my life for nothing. You're twisted, Jonah. You need help. Please, I just need to talk. Pick up. Pick up." She even sent one that said, "You'll regret this when I tell people what you're really like." That one made me laugh. She was going to spin this like she was the victim. Of course she was. Then came her friends, the loyal background dancers. You're a monster. How could you humiliate her like that? You could have just broken up like a normal person, right? Because normal people get married to steal your life's work. By midnight, even her mom joined the parade. I just spoke to Courtney. She's heartbroken. You didn't have to destroy her publicly like that. I ignored every one of them. I wasn't angry. I just didn't care anymore. I forwarded all the texts and voice messages to my lawyer and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up early at Ben's place. I'd crashed there after the party. No noise, no drama, just clarity. Coffee in hand, I opened my laptop and logged remotely into Utopia's admin console, my custom smart home system. If Courtney wanted to keep pretending she lived comfortably in my apartment, she was about to find out how useless that comfort was without me. A few keystrokes later, the system loaded. One click, change Wi-Fi SSID and password. Another, revoke her device tokens. I reset the smart lock credentials and purged her entire user profile from the database. In seconds, she was digitally disconnected from my world. The entire apartment, the lights, the sound system, even her streaming access, just went dark for her. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Did you change the Wi-Fi password? I can't connect. I didn't answer. Instead, I sent her one text. You told me to be cool or it's over. I chose over. That was it. No explanations, no long speech. An hour later, she started calling again. I muted her number. By lunch, she was leaving voice messages about how she's still part of this home and has rights now. She even said, "You can't just kick me out. I've built my life here." Interesting choice of words, considering the apartment's in my name, and she never paid a cent toward it. I called my lawyer again. He sounded amused when I explained the situation. She's refusing to leave? He asked. Yep. Typical. File a notice to vacate. You own the property, she has no claim. Just don't engage with her directly. Got it, I said. By evening, I packed a small duffel bag and decided to stay at Ben's for a few days. Partly for peace, partly to let my lawyer handle things cleanly. When I stopped by the apartment to grab my clothes, she was there, pacing in the living room, still in one of my shirts like she owned the place. She spun around the second she saw me. Oh, so you're just gonna ghost me now? After everything? I walked right past her toward the bedroom. Pretty much. You can't just walk away from this, she yelled. You humiliated me. You owe me an explanation. I turned, calm as ever. I don't owe you a single thing. You lied, you plotted, and you got caught. That's the explanation. Her eyes watered. Fake tears, of course. You can't just throw me out. I have nowhere to go. Then maybe you should have thought of that before planning your little tech heist, I said, zipping my bag. You're unbelievable, she snapped. You're heartless. Yeah, I said, brushing past her toward the door. That's what cool looks like. She stood there, speechless, as I walked out. No yelling, no slammed doors. Just a quiet exit. At Ben's place, the air felt different. Easy. He handed me a coffee and said, So, how bad was it? Public meltdown, exposed betrayal, and now she's squatting in my apartment, I said. Ben grinned. So, a normal Friday? We both laughed. It felt good. The kind of laugh that shakes off months of tension. That night, while he was gaming in the next room, I sat on his balcony watching the city lights. Courtney's texts slowed to one every hour, each one shorter and more desperate. I didn't reply. I forwarded the new ones to my lawyer and muted her for good. When I finally went to bed, I felt calm, like everything messy was finally moving into order, legally, emotionally, and technically. She thought she could play me. She forgot I designed systems, and she was just another glitch I'd already debugged. Tomorrow, I'd make it official. The eviction papers were next. And I did. By 10 a.m. My lawyer had everything ready. A formal notice to vacate, delivered through a certified process server. I didn't text, call, or warn Courtney. She got served at my door while I was at work. Apparently, she tried to argue with the guy at first, saying, "You can't evict me, this is my home." And he just pointed at the paperwork and said, "Ma'am, you're not on the deed." A few hours later, my phone lit up with a text from her mom. "I just heard what you did. You can't throw her out like garbage. She's devastated." I replied back, "She's a guest in a home I own. Guests can leave." Daria replied with a wall of text about basic decency, second chances, and how Courtney just made a mistake. I didn't even read past the first line. I forwarded it to my lawyer for record keeping and went back to my meeting. That evening, my building's manager called. "Hey, Jonah, just a heads up. Your girlfriend and her mom came by earlier." They tried to file a complaint saying you abandoned the apartment and left her stranded. I almost laughed. And what did you tell them? That you own the place. We showed them your title paperwork. They didn't look happy. I smiled. Good. Thanks for the heads up. The next week was quiet. Too quiet. Courtney didn't respond to the notice. Didn't pack, didn't move. It was pure silent defiance. My lawyer gave it a week, then said, "She's not leaving voluntarily. Time to escalate." So I did. The following Friday, I rented a U-Haul and arranged a civil standby through local police. 2 officers whose job was just to keep things calm while Courtney collected her stuff. They weren't there to evict her. They were there to make sure nothing got damaged or violent. We pulled up to my building mid-morning. The officers were relaxed but professional. "You're the homeowner, correct?" "Yep. Got the ownership documents ready." One nodded. "All right, Mr. Carter. We'll stay until she finishes packing. Let's keep this peaceful." When we got to my door, one officer knocked firmly. "Ma'am, police department," he called out. "We're here to supervise while you remove your belongings." There was shuffling inside, then the door cracked open. Courtney's face appeared, pale, shocked, like she'd seen a ghost. "What is this?" she stammered. One officer held up the paperwork. "Ma'am, Mr. Carter has asked you to collect your belongings and leave peacefully. We're here to keep this calm." Her jaw dropped. "You can't just... This is my home." The officer's tone didn't change. "Ma'am, your name isn't on the deed and you're not a tenant. We're here to supervise while you collect your belongings. Let's keep this calm." Then, behind her, a familiar voice spoke. "Travis." Of course he was there. He was standing in the living room like he belonged there. "Dude," he said, trying to sound casual. "This isn't cool, man. She needs time." The second officer cut him off immediately. "Sir, you don't live here. You have to leave now." Travis froze. Courtney looked like she was about to explode. "You called the police on me?" she shouted. "No," I said calmly. "I called the police for you. To make sure you don't make this harder than it needs to be." Her lip trembled. Then she started grabbing things off tables. Clothes, makeup, random junk. "You're heartless," she yelled, throwing a handful of hangers into a suitcase. "After everything I did for you?" I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the theft? Or the cheating?" It's hard to keep track. One of the officers smirked before quickly hiding it. Courtney slammed a drawer shut. "You think you're so smart, Jonah. You think this makes you powerful?" I stayed leaning against the wall, arms crossed. "No, it just makes me the guy who owns the place." Travis muttered something under his breath. The officer nearest him gave him a sharp look and said, "Keep it down." Boxes piled up fast. The officers stood by while they carried boxes to the hallway, while I stood by the door, making sure nothing of mine left with them. I'd marked all my equipment beforehand. The Utopia server, prototypes, documents, untouched. After an hour of chaos, the U-Haul was half full. Courtney stood in the doorway, eyes glassy, face red. "You're throwing me out like trash," she said quietly, tears welling up. I met her eyes. "No, I'm taking the trash out." Big difference. Her expression twisted, somewhere between fury and disbelief. "You'll regret this," she hissed. I shook my head. "No, Courtney." "You will." The officers motioned for her to keep moving. She grabbed the last box, muttering under her breath, and stormed out. Travis followed behind, still trying to look like he wasn't embarrassed. At the curb, the officers made sure everything was loaded. One of them gave me a short nod. "You're good, sir." "She's gone." I nodded, signing the last form. "Appreciate it." As the U-Haul door slammed shut, Courtney turned around one last time, glaring at me like she could set me on fire just by looking. "You're cold, Jonah. You have no soul." I smiled faintly. "That's what you said you wanted, right? Someone cool." Then I shut the door. The U-Haul pulled away from the curb, her face still visible in the rearview mirror. Furious, humiliated, powerless. I walked back upstairs, locked my door, and exhaled for what felt like the first real time in months. The apartment was quiet, peaceful, mine again, and I intended to keep it that way. The quiet lasted about 4 days. That's how long peace survives when someone like Courtney's involved. On the 5th day, I got an email from my lawyer. Courtney filed a complaint. She'd actually tried to sue me, claiming emotional distress and public humiliation. The report said I'd orchestrated an event to intentionally destroy her reputation. I almost laughed reading it. The same woman who tried to sell my work to her ex was now claiming I ruined her life by catching her. My lawyer didn't find it funny, though. "She's testing leverage," he said. "Don't respond directly. Let me handle it." 2 days later, he filed a counterclaim with all the screenshots, the chat exports, her photos of my research sketches, and every message she ever sent to Travis about leaking Utopia's data. Within 24 hours, her emotional distress claim vanished faster than her integrity. Then Travis disappeared. Literally. No phone calls, no posts, no response to any legal notice. My lawyer said he probably ran the second he realized this wasn't just relationship drama. This was intellectual property theft. Mr. Startup Visionary turned into Houdini. Meanwhile, Courtney still had access to the apartment. Not legally, but physically. She had a spare key she'd copied before leaving. I didn't even realize it until I came home from work one evening, and something felt off. The air smelled like burnt plastic. At first, I thought maybe one of the circuit panels tripped. Then I saw the living room. The digital displays, the ones I'd spent months coding animations for, were shattered, screens spiderwebbed with cracks. My hardwood floors had long, deep scratches across them, like someone had dragged furniture out of spite. My couch, the gray leather one I'd saved up for, had a knife slash right down the middle. On the kitchen counter, under one of my broken smart light panels, was a note. "You ruined my life, so I ruined your sanctuary." I stared at it for a long time. Then I took a picture of everything. Every gash, every broken screen, every dent. Then I put the note in a plastic sleeve. No anger, no yelling, just documentation. By the time I was done, my lawyer had already filed a motion for malicious property damage. It became part of the same case. Courtney ignored every notice just like before. Each ignored letter was another nail in her own coffin. The following week, the court finally scheduled a hearing on my civil claims for misappropriation of trade secrets and property damage. It was no longer a breakup gone bad. It was an official case: digital theft, vandalism, and willful damage. That night, I sat at my desk staring at the repaired copy of Utopia's code, the untouched version I'd backed up before everything started. The screen glowed softly, and I thought about how close she'd come to wrecking more than just my apartment. If I hadn't found those messages, she'd probably be sitting next to Travis right now, pitching my work as their project. Ben came over that evening with takeout. The second he saw the damage, he whistled. "Man, she went nuclear, huh?" "Yeah," I said, still calm. "Guess she wanted to prove she's creative." He looked around. "You filing charges?" "Already did." He nodded approvingly. "You're colder than steel, dude. Most guys would have lost it by now." "Most guys don't write code that runs smart homes," I said. "I don't lose it. I log it." That actually made him laugh so hard he nearly dropped the food. The next few days were all cleanup and prep. I repaired what I could, ordered replacements for what I couldn't. Courtney tried one last trick before court. She emailed me directly, subject line, "Can we talk?" The message was short. "We don't have to go to court. Let's just let this go. I'll stay out of your life if you drop everything." I forwarded it to my lawyer. He replied within the hour. "Do not respond. She's trying to bait you into informal communication. We're winning. Stay quiet." So I did. When the official court notice came through, it was surreal seeing everything in one stack of paperwork. Screenshots, signed statements, damaged photos, the note in her handwriting. My lawyer added a claim for malicious property destruction. Her lawyer tried to delay the hearing twice. It didn't work. Every piece of evidence we had was time-stamped, verified, airtight. My lawyer told me, "This isn't even about winning anymore. This is cleanup." I like that word, cleanup. That weekend, I sat on my newly fixed couch, looking out over the city. Utopia's system was still down, but the apartment felt alive again. Quiet, but alive. For the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for a message, a scream, a knock at the door. There was just calm. And in that calm, I realized something simple. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was justice. Slow, methodical, and completely deserved. I looked over at the safe behind the bookshelf, the one that held all my real work, untouched, protected. My life, my ideas, my future, everything she wanted to take. Courtney thought she could weaponize emotion. What she didn't understand was that emotion's messy. Systems aren't. Systems leave trails. She left plenty. Next week was the final court date. My lawyer said we'd get full judgment, damages, legal costs, and a civil judgment on record. I didn't even feel nervous. I'd done everything by the book, every move logged and verified. As I shut down my computer that night, I couldn't help but smile. She told me to be cool. And I was. All the way to the courtroom. The day of the final hearing, the courtroom was cold and bright across the aisle. Courtney sat next to Travis, both trying to look composed. Courtney had traded her red dress for a beige blazer, the innocent victim uniform. Travis looked like he hadn't slept in weeks, nervous, eyes darting around like a guy waiting for his number to be called. They were whispering fast, but it was pointless. There's no strategy that can undo evidence. The judge entered, everyone stood, then sat. He looked straight at us and said, "Let's get started." Courtney's lawyer went first, trying to sound confident. He said words like misunderstanding and miscommunication. He tried to make it sound like I'd overreacted, that this was a personal matter exaggerated into a legal one. Then it was my lawyer's turn. Calm, steady, surgical. He started with the texts. Big screen. Timestamps. Messages straight from Courtney's own tablet. Once we're married, I'll have full access. He won't even notice me sending files. This will be our ticket out. The room went silent except for the faint click of the slideshow remote. Courtney shifted in her seat, her face draining of color. Travis kept staring down at his hands. Then came the screenshots of her sending my diagrams, my actual research drawings, to Travis. We had metadata, file hashes, everything. Each one verified. "Your Honor," my lawyer said, pointing to the screen, "these are proprietary documents. My client, Mr. Carter, holds the original designs and source code. These two individuals conspired to steal and profit from them." The judge leaned forward, scanning the exhibit pages. "I see." He looked up. "Ms. Lane, is that your account?" Courtney's voice cracked. It's taken out of context." "Out of context?" my lawyer said, flipping another page. "Perhaps you can explain this one. He's so obsessed with this utopia thing, it's hilarious." That was sent 3 days before she attended a meeting with my client about potential investors. Courtney froze. Travis tried to step in, mumbling something about collaboration and inspiration. The judge shut that down quick. "You had no authorization to handle any of this material, Mr. Reeves. None." Travis went quiet after that. Completely quiet. Then we presented the vandalism photos, the broken displays, the note that said, "You ruined my life, so I ruined your sanctuary." The judge read it twice, sighed, and shook his head. The rest of the hearing was routine. They didn't deny the damage. They didn't deny the messages. They just tried to minimize everything. Too little. Too late. When it was over, the judge leaned back in his chair. "This isn't complicated," he said. "Mr. Carter, you've provided overwhelming evidence of theft, intent, and property destruction. The defendant's actions were deliberate and malicious." Courtney looked like she might faint. Travis stared straight ahead, like maybe if he didn't blink, it wouldn't be real. The judge continued. "This court finds both defendants liable for intellectual property theft and property damage. Mr. Carter is awarded full restitution and legal fees. Furthermore, the court entered a declaratory judgment confirming that Utopia belongs solely to Mr. Carter and issued an injunction prohibiting any use or disclosure of his work. The eviction, the judge noted, had already been ruled lawful last month in a separate housing hearing. Today's case," he added, "covers the civil matters only, the theft and the damage. Any further contact will result in contempt findings." Bang. Gavel. Case closed. Courtney started crying the moment it ended. Not silent tears. Full sobbing. Hands over her face. Shaking her head. Travis stood up too fast and nearly tripped on his chair. He didn't even look at her. Just muttered something about needing air and walked out. I stayed seated for a moment, letting the noise fade. People were standing, shuffling papers, whispering. My lawyer patted my shoulder. "You did everything right," he said. "Yeah," I said, standing up. "I always do." A few months passed. Life went back to being exactly what I wanted it to be. Structured, peaceful, simple. After the judgment, Travis went quiet. No posts, no calls. He complied with the injunction and disappeared from the scene. I didn't check on her, but occasionally her name would pop up when people mentioned that crazy engagement party guy. I'd just shrug. It didn't matter anymore. Utopia, though. Utopia came back better. I rebuilt it from the ground up with new encryption, triple security layers, no outside access. It was faster, smarter, cleaner. I renamed the central version Utopia Prime. It wasn't just a system now. It was a symbol. Ben came by a few days later and whistled. "Man, she really tried to steal this? She had no idea who she was messing with." "Yeah," I said with a smirk. "She thought she was playing chess." I was coding the board. He laughed. "So what now? Back to building empires?" "Back to peace," I said. And that's what I did. No drama, no noise, just progress. Sometimes, late at night, when Utopia hums quietly and everything's working in sync, I think about how close I came to losing it all. Not just my work, but my self-respect. Then I remember her ultimatum. She told me to be cool or it's over, I say to myself. And I stayed cool. And it's finally over, exactly how it should be. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.